Hello guys, welcome back to this IQ Option automation series. In this video, I'm going to show you how to get the trade outcome. In the last video, we successfully placed digital option trade. In this video, we will place digital option trade and get the trade outcome for that particular trade. So let's get it started. Whenever we place trade, we get WebSocket message with name position changed, and this position changed contains a lot of information about a particular order, and some of them are active ID or assist ID, and invest or bet or investment amount, PNL, and then it contains raw event, and this raw event has a nested dictionary information, and it contains status. So when we first open trade, the status is open, and when trade expires, the status becomes closed. We get the same kind of message. Okay, the name for the message is the same, and also the keys are the same. Okay, so when position is closed, this PNL will be updated to final profit or loss realized, and this status becomes closed. Other things remain same. Okay, so now let's write function to get trade outcome. So like I mentioned, when we open the position or our position is closed, we must get this position closed message, and right now we are not getting that. Now let me run the script. So this is what we did in the last video, right? Execute trade, and this function returns tuple with status and the result, which is going to be either ID upon successful trade execution or error message upon error, trade placement error, right? So now let's run the script. Let's place the trade and see what we are going to get. Right, we must get this position changed message. Okay, right now we will not get that. Okay, I'm getting an error. It's just a moment. Actually here I need to get rid of this thing for time being. Okay, let's run the script. We must get a trade by digital option trade placed. Okay, so the trade is placed. Okay, we're not getting anything because let's print the WebSocket message. Okay, we need to make sure we are getting this position changed message, and actually let's add one more thing. So let's do time.sleep just to ensure that we wait enough time for that position changed message to arrive. Okay, so we're still not getting position changed message here. The trade is placed, but we are not getting position changed message, and that's because we need to do subscribing for the instrument. And if you remember earlier, we wrote a function called just a moment, we wrote a function called portfolio position changed, and this does subscribing for this instrument. Okay, so actually we need to call this function, okay, whenever we do default account settings. So after we get a profile message or authenticated to WebSocket, let's call this function here. Okay, so since this function inside this class, we can access it this way, so we need to do subscribe message, and we need to pass the current or default account ID. All right, so this is what we need to do. This time we must be able to get position changed message, just like this message, position changed, and these data. So we must get same kind of message. So let's see. All right, so we are getting position changed message, right? Right now it is a bit difficult to read, so let's store this in a JSON file so that we can read it better. Okay, for that we need to actually catch this message. So the name is position changed. Now let's go to message handler, define a attribute called self.positionInfo and set it as empty dictionary. And let's also define a handler position change. So this is the message name, right? And this message will be handled by this position change class, sorry, function. Okay, so for now let's simply store this message in a positions.json file so that we can have a better look at it. All right, let's run the script one more time. We must get a file called position.json. Okay, so position.json, here it is. So this is how the data, order data is the contents inside that position changed message. So active ID in the status open, investment, PNL, and inside this raw data it contains nested data, and it also contains a key called order IDs, and this is a list, and this contains the order ID. This order ID is same as just a moment, same as this order confirmation ID. Right now let's do one thing. Now let's store the key, the order ID as key and the whole message as value, right? So for that what we can do is, how we can access ID is from the whole message raw event order IDs, and it's a list. So this means we need to do indexing. So order IDs 0 index, so that's what we can do. So let's do that. Okay, so this is what we can do. So this is the attribute we just defined, right? And we are getting the order ID from 0th index from raw event, which is inside this MSG, inside this whole message, right? And we are storing the whole message, right? Whole MSG from message to the order ID. So that's all we are doing in this function. Now let's define a function that is going to check the trade outcome. Okay, so let's give it a name like get trade outcome, and this needs to accept two arguments. First thing is going to be order ID, no doubt, and second thing is going to be the expiry time. Okay, and this expiry time is going to be, this expiry time is going to be same as this expiry time. Okay, now if order was successfully placed, right? If status, let's call this function. So trade manager dot get trade outcome, right? And let's pass this result, which upon successful trade execution is a ID, and let's pass the expiry time. So this expiry time, needs to be same as this expiry time, right? Let's get rid of this time dot sleep, and here what we can do is actually, now we can access this position info. Let's access this position info attribute from this message handler, right? And this, since this position info is a dictionary, let's do this, and let's pass the order ID, right? And then what else we need to pass is, if nothing like order ID is not found, simply return empty dictionary, right? And actually let's store this in a variable called order data, right? So we need order info, right? We need to check for profit or loss or trade outcome. So when status is open, we will not be able to get the exact trade outcome, right? So only when status becomes closed, that means that trade is expired or closed for some reason, and now we can actually find out the actual outcome of that particular trade, right? So when status is closed, right, let's do this. When status is closed, let's try to get the PNL amount. So if we have order data and order data dot get status is closed, if the position is closed, get a key called PNL, right? And then determine result type win if PNL is greater than 0, else loss, right? We don't need this, we don't need to necessarily get this order ID, it can be this, right? And here we are simply doing like message console printing, right? Logger.info trade closed order ID result equals to result type PNL and equals to PNL amount, and then we can actually return the PNL amount and status true, right? Now what we need to do is actually we need to wait until this position change dot status becomes closed for that particular trade, right? So let's do while true. So this will keep looping until we get into this block. Okay, so as soon as we get into this block, this thing is processed and it returns PNL amount, right? So this is what it does. Now let's add time.sleep just to ensure that we don't use excessive memory. Okay, so this is what we can do for time being. Now let's run the script. Okay, let's run the script and see what we are going to get. Okay, so the trade is being executed and some 30 seconds remaining. So let's see if this will function as expected or not. Okay, the trade is closed at profit 0.92 profit, right? So here we are seeing trade closed, result win and PNL 0.92. All right, so this function that we just wrote to check the trade outcome is working as expected. Now one flaw with this function, or particularly with this while loop, is if some glitch happens and we never get status closed for the order ID being passed, it will keep looping infinitely and we will never get out of this function. Thus it will block the main program, right? uh, okay, so to get rid of this thing, what we can do is actually do timeout. Instead of doing this infinite while dot true, let's add a function in utility. Let's add this function. So this function first will get the expiry. Okay, so for this function we pass the timestamp, current timestamp, and the duration or expiry of our that particular trade, right? And first we will try to get the expiry timestamp. Okay, and from timestamp we will subtract current server timestamp so that we get the remaining second for a particular thread to expire. Like this, in this case is 1/22, right? So we will get in case of 1/22, this becomes 120 seconds, right? So that instead of infinite loop like while or true, we will keep looping until it's like 120 second, and after that we will exit from that loop no matter what. We don't want to unnecessarily keep looping for no reason, right? For that, let's do this thing. Let's add the doc string. Okay, and now we can call this function from this utilities get remaining second. So we are already importing this from utilities. Now let's also import this, and then let's do this thing. So this thing store in a variable called timeout function, pass the server time and the expiry time for particular thread. All right, and here instead of while true, let's replace this with this, right? So if it's less than timeout, right, this timeout, it will keep looping, and the moment it's greater than timeout, it will exit from the while loop no matter what, right? Actually, let's add plus 2 seconds. Okay, sometime the message takes like some time to arrive, right? In that case we need extra seconds, so let's add plus 3 seconds, and this must be enough, right? And in case we get timeout, right, that means we could not determine either profit or loss for that particular trade, so we will simply return false and none. Okay, so this is all we need to do, right? This is all we need to do. Now let's do one thing. Let's see if this function is working as expected or not. For that, let's give it a hard coded time like 5 seconds, right? 5 seconds will not be enough for particular trade outcome to determine, because there needs to be at least 30 seconds, right? So we must get false or none. This function returns right these things, so that means we can print or received or unpack the values from that function, right? For time being, let's print it. Okay, clear the console. Let's see if we are going to get false and none or not. We must get that because we are not waiting for necessary time to determine a trade outcome, right? Okay, so we are getting false and none, and the program exits because of this thing. We are waiting for only 5 plus 3 8 seconds, right? Which is not enough time for a particular outcome to determine. Okay, so this function is working as expected. Now let's uncomment these things, and this should be okay. And this time let's clear the message and also WebSocket and comment out this print statement. Yep, right, let's see. Okay, so the trade is executed. Okay, this one is old trade. Okay, and so now we have 1 minute remaining for this new trade or latest trade to expire. So we are getting order executed successfully, and order ID is this. So status closed. Okay, So we just got this trade expired, right? That's why we are getting status closed. No problem. So still 25 seconds remaining for this trade to expire. Okay, the trade has expired in profit, so 0.92 profit. So here it says trade closed, result win PNL 0.92, and we are also getting this thing from our function. This thing needs to be rounded down to 2 decimal, right? Okay, fine. So our this new function to check the trade outcome for digital trade is working as expected, right? Now what we can do is actually add this gateway function, right? So add this gateway function, ensure connected, and return whatever returns from this trade manager dot get trade outcome, and pass these two arguments, right? So this is what we can add this to IQ client dot by module. Now instead of trade manager, we can directly access with this algobot. Okay, algobot, and this must work. Okay, so we're getting no error, and we are inside the loop, right? This means everything is working as expected. So to check the trade outcome for digital option, it's being complete and it's working successfully without any error. So what we did is actually we added this attribute, and we added this event handler, and wrote this function, and stored the message as value with id as the key, right? And then in accounts.py we added this thing for subscribing for different type of instrument, right? And in trade.py module we wrote this function which is responsible for checking the trade outcome. We also added this function named get remaining second. This function is responsible for getting a remaining second for particular trade with particular expiry time, right? And we're using this remaining second plus 3 second as timeout for this loop. And after that okay, and then this is how we are getting the PNL, right? And we are doing this logger.info and returning the PNL amount in case we were able to get the PNL for that particular trade. And if we got timeout, we are returning false and none, right? And inside this IQ client we wrote this gateway function, and now this is how we can place the trade and check the trade for particular digital option trade. All right, so that's all in this video. In the next video we will write function that will place binary option trade, and in the next video we will write function that will get the outcome for binary option. Okay, so thank you for listening. See you in the next video.